Showing up on Facebook feeds tonight showing Marietta police forcefully arresting a man at an IHOP. So how did a complaint about bacon turn into this? 11 Alive's Joe Hankey spoke to police who were standing by the officer's use of force.
Well, Jeff, one upload of this video to Facebook has been watched more than 20,000 times, with many people questioning in the comments how police made the arrest. Marietta police are investigating the arrest and reviewing body camera video today, but a police spokesman tells me while the arrest was not pretty, the department is standing tonight by the actions of its officers.
You know how you make the figure like you got a gun with your hand?
Yes, sir.
He said, I'm gonna kill all of y'all, and he spread his hand out like he was gonna shoot in all kinds of directions.
That 911 call led Marietta police to this IHOP on Cobb Parkway around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday. Cell phone video shared on Facebook shows what happened next when police arrived and officers began talking with Renardo Lewis. Community activist Gerald Rose says he talked with Marietta police today about the video. He is calling for body camera video to be released to show a fuller picture of what happened.
We don't want to go off emotion, we want to go off facts, but we did see this video, and I'm very concerned right now on the video that we see right now.
Marietta police say before cell phone video begins, an officer tried talking with Lewis and his wife to investigate claims Lewis made threats.
At that point, the video is the video, and it's not pretty, but we're proud of the fact that the officers, if you look at it again and consider, the officers used restraint and only used the force required to eventually get a suspect who we were told made threats.
Officer Chuck McPhillamy says at first officers only wanted to detain Lewis to question him. Lewis's hand can be seen coming above his head in the cell phone video. Next, everyone is in a wrestling match. An arrest warrant states Lewis grabbed a female officer's neck and began choking her, and he is accused of trying to get a taser out of another officer's hands.
If he is still unwilling to just place his hands behind his back, we have to continue to use some measured, appropriate force to get him to comply.
The video shows an officer then continued to use force against Lewis. An officer shouts a warning and moments later uses his taser. On the ground, an officer punches Lewis. We asked the department about it. Officer McPhillamy says it was a tactic to get Lewis to draw his hands up in self-defense.
Kind of a natural human reflex. And at that moment, then he's immediately placed in cuffs. And then ask yourself the important question, did any force occur after that?
Lewis is being charged with assaulting an officer, obstruction, and public drunkenness. I'm told body camera from the incident is being reviewed by Marietta police, but there is no timetable for it to be released. Lewis is still being investigated for claims he made threats, and video could be kept as evidence for that investigation or the charges he already faces. Jennifer?
Thank you all for being here. My name is Sarah Fleck, and I represent Mr. Renardo Lewis. I spent a good amount of time with him this morning right over here at the Cobb County Jail, where he has been incarcerated since Saturday night, early morning into Sunday, for an incident that happened at an IHOP here in Marietta. We are here today because for the past 72 hours, the Marietta Police Department, the media have discussed this case. The case has gone viral. The video, we've all seen it at this point. And what has been said about Mr. Lewis is false. And so we are here today to tell you guys and to tell the community about who Mr. Lewis is and to demand two things. Today you're going to hear from me. I'm going to speak a little bit, and then you're going to hear from two people. You're going to hear from Liz Toledo. She was the witness who was present at the IHOP on Saturday and who actually videoed the incident that happened. And then you're also going to hear from Ms. Franklin, who is Mr. Lewis's beloved wife of almost 10 years. They've been together almost 20 years. They both live here in Marietta, or in Marietta, have done so for a very long time. Mr. Lewis is a business owner. He owns RC Southern Cooking in Marietta. Ms. Franklin owns a business, has been here for many, many years, and was at the IHOP on Saturday night after celebrating a family member's birthday party. They stopped in to get some food, and there was a customer service dispute, something that has happened to, I'm sure, all of us. And in that dispute, they being my client and his wife, requested corporate's phone number. So I want to clear something up right now. You guys may have heard Marietta Police has said that this case is about bacon. This case has nothing to do with bacon, and honestly, that insinuation to reduce what happened, the assault, the attack on my client to bacon, is inflammatory, it's discriminatory, and it's offensive. Most importantly, it's false. They requested corporate's phone number, and at some point, the manager contacts, at least our understanding is that he contacts the police department, and they show up, and you will hear from the witness, Miss Liz, who will speak in a minute, how the second they walked in, they came in essentially guns blazing, with the proverbial on a high horse, yelling, screaming, looking at my client, automatically assuming he's up to no good, because they don't know that this is a community member, a business owner, a father, a loving husband. And almost immediately, they assume, apparently they were there because somebody said that he had made threats. I haven't heard from anybody who has said he has made any threats other than the police. Nonetheless, they don't pat him down, even though they were allegedly scared. Apparently, he had made gestures to a gun. They're there for about 3 minutes, aren't seemingly scared. And at some point, you see in the video my client, they ask for his ID, he goes to his ID, and then he kind of looks over because he hears the police getting louder with his wife, and he's concerned for her. He's her protector, he loves her, and he turns around, and at that point, you see in the video, my client gets slammed against the glass so hard that some of the witnesses thought the glass was going to break, and then you see what the Marietta Police Department has categorized as a wrestling match, or a wrestle. And I want to clear something up about that too. Nothing about what happened to my client was a wrestling match, okay? It was a mob-style attack by 5 or 6 officers on top of this one man. And he's tased, he's punched, he's kicked. They knocked his tooth out. In fact, this morning, we took photographs of it. His tooth is completely knocked out. His eyes are still completely bloodshot. This was not a wrestling match. This was an attack by 5 or 6 officers on this one man. And you hear, and Liz will tell you more, he never at any point threatens anybody's life. He never resists arrest. He's in pain. And he's tased. And he's injured. And he's arrested. And nonetheless, he sits in this jail, as he has for 3 days without bond, and will apparently sit here until April 22nd without bond. And he's presumed innocent. He's got a business. He's got employees. He's got a family. But apparently, our system thinks that he is so much of a threat, so much of a danger, that he's got to sit in the Cobb County Jail for almost a month. And so, that's why we're here today. We are demanding 2 things. We are demanding, 1, that the GBI come in and investigate the Marietta Police Department's conduct. Marietta Police has already said they are very proud, and those are quotes. Their statement, they are proud of their officers, and so we have no faith that they're going to do any objective investigation, and so we're requesting that the GBI come in and investigate, but we're also requesting an immediate interview or immediate sit-down meeting with the Cobb County District Attorney's Office so that we can discuss these charges, discuss a bond, because nonetheless my client sits in that jail day after day after day, and he is innocent. So at this time, I would like to introduce Liz Toledo. She will give you a few words about what she witnessed.
My name is Liz Toledo, Lizztoledo. I'm with the Atlanta People's Powers Assembly. I've been an organizer for over 30 years. It just so happened that my family and I were sitting there, just full disclosure, my family and I were sitting there at IHOP that evening. We were having a celebration as well for my mother-in-law's birthday. We had just come from the Temptations and Four Tops concert. Good show, go see it. And we were celebrating her birthday, sitting there having pancakes and enjoying ourselves. The manager that was, very rude to Mr. Lewis had already been rude at our table. My husband is African American. They happened to order omelet with bacon, and the bacon was thrown up on top of the eggs. It wasn't inside the omelet, so my husband complained, and the manager was like, well, that's all cooks are different, and threw the plate and walked away. So I think maybe he had that table confused with the Lewises when they started talking about bacon, because when Mr. Nardo, the first thing I heard from Mr. Nardo was him saying, why didn't you tell us this 30 minutes ago, or something to that effect? Why didn't you say it 30 minutes ago? Why didn't you say something 30 minutes ago? I'm not sure if it was 30 minutes he said, but something minutes. And so I looked, because as I said, I'm an activist for 30 years. When I start hearing sounds like that in a predominantly predominantly white establishment, I want to really hone in and figure out what's going on. So I started moving towards the door to hear more clearly what's going on. At this point, I heard Ms. Labrise ask the manager, well, let me have your phone number. And he said, no, I don't have to give you my name and phone number. And she said, well, let me get your the headquarters number. No, I don't have to give you that either. And then the police walked in and I started recording. The police that walked in were a male officer and a female officer. The female officer was okay. The male officer started screaming, yelling, move out of the way, shut up, all in Mr. Lewis's face. Mr. Lewis said, you don't have to yell at me. I'm a man just like you. Talk to me like a man. The officer just like, shut up and get out of the way. And if you want respect, then you should give respect. And Mr. Lewis says, no, you give respect too. I'm not disrespecting you. You came in here disrespecting me. And they're going back and forth. Then the female officer pulls Mr. Lewis to the side, and Ms. Labrise is talking to the male officer. The female officer is having a conversation with Mr. Lewis, and then some more police officers came in. Maybe 2 or 3 more police officers came in. One of the police officers that just walked in asked Mr. Lewis for his ID. At this point, the male officer that was speaking to Ms. Labrise is yelling and screaming at her. So Mr. Lewis turned to try to see, why are you talking to my wife like that, kind of a thing. And that's when they grabbed him, they slammed him up against the wall. It's all in the video. The video speaks for itself. And then, I was one of the witnesses that was shocked that glass didn't shatter, because they really slammed him really hard up against that wall. I thought I heard his head bang the wall. But at any rate, at that point, Mr. Lewis is saying, what's going on? Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything. What are you doing? And all the other witnesses are screaming the same. They grabbed him and they wrestled him to the ground. He said, I'm trying to sit. I'm trying to sit. And his wife is saying, he's trying to sit. Stop, don't do anything. And they pushed her out of the way. And she was just trying to get him to, in my opinion, and through my experience, I think she was just trying to get him to not even make any kind of a gesture or move, because he might end up dead. Like many black and brown men and women end up dead from minor things across this country, by police officers across this country. So I think she was just trying to just chill, do whatever they say to kind of not, but Mr. Lewis was not resisting arrest. He was not threatening anybody. He never threatened anybody. Before the police got there, he just said, I don't want any bacon. I don't know what you're talking about. He never made any gestures to try to pull out any guns or do anything that was threatening in any way. I was there throughout the whole time. He did not do any of what they're alleging. And at that point, they tased him. They started punching him in the face. His hands were already behind his back. I don't know if he was already cuffed, because I couldn't really see, but his hands were already behind his back. They had one knee on or a foot on his neck. He was screaming, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. I started screaming, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, just in case they didn't hear him. And then they grabbed him. One of the officers said, he's trying to go after my taser. I said, that's a lie. He's not. His hands are behind his back. He's not trying to do anything. Are you guys trying to find an excuse to shoot him? And then they grabbed him and they brought him outside. And that's when the video ends. So yeah, that's what I saw, and we're going to keep pushing. The People's Power Assembly is going to keep pushing. We want the DA to drop all charges. We want IHOP to make an apology to the black community. We want the national office to make an apology to the black community, not only in Georgia, but nationally. We're sick and tired of this going on, and we want it to end. Thanks.
Thank you, Liz. And now if we can have Ms. Franklin, if you would just speak a few words.
I'm Labrise Franklin Lewis. That has been my husband and my significant other for 19 years. This is a picture when we first got married 9 years ago. My husband is a great, incredible guy. He is a business owner in Marietta. I'm also a business owner in Cobb County for 15 years. The way they have presented my husband to be is the total opposite of who he is as a man. He's an excellent father, grandfather, He has a business team that supports the community, and he used to be a coach. He supports the young kids. He has always tried to do the right thing since I've been with him, and I did not appreciate how he was portrayed in the news. Also, I'm begging the district attorney to do the right thing by dropping my husband charges, because I feel like you know that that's the right thing to do. You know that you have him incarcerated for no reason, and you know that your officers were wrong and you are trying to take up for them. I will not stand by and let y'all do this, defame my husband and defamation of his character, because you guys are just trying to get yourselves out of trouble. I'm here to stand up for my husband. I just want y'all to know he's a good man. My husband's a good man. I wish y'all could meet him. He's a great man, and he's a family man. And if I could have brought more pictures, I would have, just to represent who he is as a person. Thank you so much.
Can you just run us through what happened before police arrived?
Before police arrived, I came out the restroom. I heard the waiter, heavyset Caucasian man, talking, and I'm like, who is he talking about? Because he was cussing and fussing. So when I went around the corner, because we were still in the waiting area, we were just ordering to go. We never did sit down and eat. We never sat down and ate. So I heard my husband, and I'm like, well, what's going on? He was like, the man came around the corner, and he was like, this man is fussing me about bacon. I didn't even ask him for bacon. I was asking, do they cook omelets? My husband is a chef. So when he first came in and they said they didn't have a prep, he seen them cooking. He said, you don't have to prep for omelets. So that's why he went back in and asked, are they cooking omelets? So anyway, at this time, the man heard my husband talking to me as we were about to walk out, and he started fussing with my husband. And my husband was like, sir, I'm not talking to you. And they exchanged words, and I'm like, well, hold on. Let's just do all this. Let me get your corporate number and your names. His name was Joseph. First he told me his name was John. He did not want to give me his name. Then he said, just call me John. His name ended up being Joseph. It was Whitney and Delia. And they were all the ones that were running around talking and laughing, and he need to do this and he need to do that. And I'm like, we are customers. You don't treat us like that. We're business owners as well. So I just didn't want them,
Which room to cook
as well. So I just didn't want them,
Which room to cook to call 911?
I have no idea. No idea.
And it's important to note that right now, none of us have any idea. He's
No
not
idea.
entitled to any discovery. But nonetheless, as I said, he sits in the jail. But we don't know. So we will try and request a 911 call. Hopefully they release it to us, but we're not entitled to anything at this point.
Where did this bacon dialogue come from?
I have no idea.
I think Miss Liz had alluded to it.
They confused our table with what they were talking about.
And I don't know how, because we came in
We were seated
and they was already eating.
Yeah.
How would you get the two mixed up? And he told them, sir, I don't even eat pork. And he told them that.
What's important about that is if you look at the Marietta Police Department statement, the Marietta Police Department, in their statement, they boil this down to bacon. I mean, they attribute the bacon issue, whatever that is, to my client. So it just goes to show the lack of investigation and why I really believe that this whole bacon rhetoric is inflammatory and it's discrimination. And we all know what that is. There should be no place for that in this society, but that's what we've done, and as a result, my client was beaten and attacked and sits in the jail.
Ms. Freeman, what was your fear of line when you saw your husband on the ground?
I thought they was going to kill him.
Sorry?
I thought they were going to kill him. I thought my husband was going to be dead. I did. I thought my husband was going to get shot. And I didn't know what to do. That's what was going through my head.
If we don't have any more questions, thank you so much for being here.
Are you aware that police charged him now with terroristic threats?
Yes, I am aware that they charged him with a terroristic threat, which was allegedly why they were there in the first place, but interestingly, didn't charge him with that initially. In fact, they just charged him with the terroristic threat. So I think that's an interesting fact, and I look forward to learning more about that, since that's really what allegedly has caused this whole thing.
Do you think that surveillance video from IHOP will help in some of this? Help match these stories up a little better? Because like you said, these are two very different narratives.
I certainly hope so, and I look forward to the day where we get it.
Are you taking legal action?
Right Right now, our number one priority and concern is the criminal allegations against him. As he sits in this jail, he cannot work, he cannot provide. So I am representing him in the criminal matter, and everything else we will thoroughly investigate and make a decision at the appropriate time.
Can we get your name spelling?
Lubreez as in zebra E, FranklinLewis.
Ms. Franklin is here with you.
My family, his family, my friends, my close friends. Everybody's here to support us. Everybody is worried about my husband.
His 4 children are here in the
Yes.
front. If you would raise your hand, please. This is Mr. Lewis's mom, his sisters, who else?
His grandson.
His entire family.
What do you say to these IHOP employees? What do you say to this staff?
At this time, we don't have a comment, but we are requesting and requiring at some point that we get an apology for what happened. It didn't have to happen that way, shouldn't have happened that way, and it's not okay. So.
He tried to apologize at the end. He said that he didn't know all this was going to happen. He caused it.
Who was that?
The IHOP man, Joseph.
What was he doing during the case? What was IHOP employees doing?
Nothing.
Probably
Just like,
laughing. I don't know.
They were on the site somewhere, but I was recording, so I couldn't really see what they were doing. But yeah, like you said, they were probably laughing because they were laughing before the police.
Yes.
Got called. My sister was one of the people that was also pushed on the video, and she says that she heard.
And actually, at this time, I don't want to make
Okay.
that, because right now we are not speculating. What you've heard today are things that we know for sure, that these 2 witnesses who were there saw, and so I don't want to comment on things that we haven't been able to confirm at this point.
Ms. Franklin, did you say you were there celebrating birthday? You guys are celebrating your birthday?
No. That was Miss Liz.
You thankful Liz filmed it?
I'm so happy she filmed it. She did such a great job. I don't think that we could be here if Miss Liz did not film everything. She has been 100% the reason why this is where it is today.
Was everyone you dealt with at IHOP Caucasian?
No.
And I think it's important to note, too, that prior to the night that this happened, Miss Liz and my client, his wife, had never met her, had no interactions with her. They're just 2 customers at IHOP. My client was going to come in to order, and then they were going to leave, and they were happening to leave as well, and this is when all of this happened. So I think that's important. At this time, we're not going to take any other questions. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All charges have been dropped against a Cobb County man arrested during a confrontation with police at an IHOP. The video of his arrest went viral. Renardo Lewis was accused of making terroristic threats at the restaurant last year. Lewis's attorneys say he was tased, punched, and kicked by several Marietta police officers. At the time, police said Lewis had tried to choke an officer and grab the officer's gun and taser, but Lewis's attorneys denied that. Lewis says for nearly 21 months, his family suffered emotionally and financially while waiting to clear his name. He says he's relieved knowing this situation could have ended differently.
I'm glad that I'm here, because a lot of times it don't end up this way. You know, a lot of times it could have ended up in death or in jail. And I'm here right now, God willing, to tell my testimony. You know, we did a lot of praying.
On the other side of this, Marietta police sent us a statement saying they disagree with the decision to drop the charges, and that while an officer involved in the arrest is no longer with the department says the investigation does not pertain in any way to the IHOP case.
Hey, bro. What are you up to?
How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Did you leave your truck over there? It's a white truck.
No.
It's not your truck. I don't need that, bro. That's yours. Do you guys know him? Do you mind if I take him away from you guys? Hey, you got a gun. Ah, move! Down the ground! Run! Run! Get down! Get down! Stop! 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 Let me see your hands! Code for release 29 out of a gun. One in custody. Quit resisting! Quit resisting! You're under arrest! arrest! Quit! Oh yeah, you ain't said nothing. And put the taser. Hey. Run! Get down! Stop! 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 Let me see your hands!
I got him. Watch it. You go for it?
Go for it. One in custody.
Clear signal 29, one in custody.
Quit resisting!
Sorry, Carl. One more.
Quit resisting! You're under arrest! Quit! Oh yeah, you ain't said nothing. And put the taser. Hey. Stop moving. Stop. Stop. Stop or you're gonna get tased. We're done. We're done. Stop. Stop. Stop or you're gonna hurt yourself. Stop.
See if we can get the cuffs on this guy. Okay.
From the left changes northbound, number 2 car in the left lane, the black Audi A4 with the jet drive tag, driver texting. Anybody's westbound on Robbery Street, I got one set at the red light about to turn. It's an orange Dodge Charger, black windows.
Old habits die hard. The law went in place. We saw a decrease in following too close and accidents related to that. That was a positive for the state. As the months have turned into a year, we're seeing a slight uptick in the number of accidents that relate to following too close and distracted. You have over 40 marked cars, including the Georgia State Patrol troopers that are out here. All of those cars are working together to pull over what you were just hearing on that microphone. So you have 3 undercover officers standing at the intersection, and they're walking up disguised as construction workers, and they're simply looking in the vehicles and calling out on the radio who's violating the law and in what manner.
Red Nissan Altima, driver no seatbelt.
That goes out to the corresponding line of officers and troopers to go pull those cars over. We're looking for the obvious violations out here today that are visible, so it's seat belts and it's distracted driving. The reality is the law states that you can't have the phone in your hand or resting on your person, not resting on your leg or on your lap. It has to be put away. And then if you're answering that phone, you can do a single press or a swipe to answer it or decline it. But you can't manipulate the phones. We want to educate the public. The truth is none of us want to write the ticket. It's a whole lot of paperwork. The reality is we write the ticket hoping that that will make you change your behavior. Because clearly the law going into effect and us talking about it wasn't enough.
Edge at 11 tonight, the Marietta Police Department has a bit of extra help on the streets tonight. The public safety ambassadors are supposed to free up officers to focus on crime fighting. Fox 5's Denise Dillon is live for us in Marietta tonight. And Denise, more than 100 people applied for the ambassador program, we understand.
Yeah, that's right. And they chose 8 people. They range in age from 19 to 64 years old, and they have a wide array of experience. But they all have one thing in common, and they want to fight crime by helping the cops and the city. The calls come in, and they roll out. The newest members of the Marietta Police Department are on the road.
Can take care of some of the things that the police department officers are normally taking care of and free them up for more important things.
They're public safety ambassadors. They don't carry guns and don't have the power to make an arrest. Their mission? Take reports and handle low priority calls to free up officers so they can focus on the more serious crimes.
A force multiplier because it puts more eyes and ears out on the street. They're there to have that goodwill to take the report that needs to be taken, but not one that would require criminal charges.
Danny Weingard had to file a report for a stolen tag and was surprised at how quickly an ambassador responded.
I'm from New Jersey, so back home we're taking a lot longer. Here is this bad problem. I took care of it, and I can go about my day.
Putting the ambassadors on the street is a lot less expensive than hiring more officers. They're paid $30,000 a year. Their training isn't as extensive as that of an officer. Glenn Killian is a retired firefighter and jumped at the opportunity.
Had a public service career since I was 19 years old, starting out as EMT, volunteer firefighter. So I just wanted to stay in public service.
Visibility. They see us, they see officers, they feel like they're home, they're comfortable, everything's safe.
Sheila Billings just finished taking her first report. She says she's not afraid of responding to any calls, even though there's always a risk it could be dangerous.
If you live in fear, you're not living at all.
What's up? I need some explanation, you know that. Okay, yeah, so there's a lady doing a U-turn on the northbound side. She has an improper U-turn, we've established that finally. Somehow, I guess there's damage on the side, I can't really tell yet, but hits him on the side. I'm like, so he's across the north or the southbound lanes. And I pull up just seeing the PSA, and I'm like, what are we doing? He goes, okay, it's a 41. So I'm like, can you roll your car forward? Can you pull it forward just so we can open up the lanes and I'll work a 41 in the parking lot? He won't acknowledge me at all, just like I'm not even there. And so I'm like, hey, sir, you know, whatever. And he's just like ignoring me, doing his thing. And so then I'm asking for his info and he's just ignoring me. I'm like, can I get your driver's license at least? And he's like, just ignoring me. Not doing anything. So finally he starts it, or after that, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go talk to this, because he goes, are you going to ticket the other driver? And I was like, I haven't even gone that far, man. So I was like, I don't know yet. I only talked to you, and I'm not even getting a story on what happened. And so I go to close his door, and then he's like, whoa, and shoves me out of the door frame, and he's like, my foot was there. I mean, it wasn't. So, because we're in the middle of traffic, I don't want to get hit and all that mess. So finally he just rolls up his window, and he's sitting in the car just ignoring me. So I'm like, yo, we're in the middle of the road. I don't want to, I need some sort of info here. And he just drives off down here. And so even from up there at the, pretty much at Haley. Right down there? Yep. So he pulls in here and I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I'm at the window trying to handle an accident report, and he's just window up, not even doing anything. He's making phone calls, all this stuff. And then finally he's on the phone with DC, I can hear him. And I'm like, sir, I need your license. It doesn't work like this where you just sit here all day. And finally he's just sitting there with the window rolled up. So I open the door, I'm like, you're under arrest, man. I'm done with this. Because I can't sit here all day when we're playing games. So if you want to undo this, it's your call, but that's why he's out of the car in handcuffs. Because I can't be here all day, like, on an accident, you know what I mean? So it's whatever you want to do. He's driver 2 in all this, so I don't know what the big deal is.
These two men, while Marietta police say they robbed a cash checking store, stole a delivery driver's car, and then hid out in a hotel. A maid told police she saw the men walking around with guns and called 911. In less than 10 minutes, police say they had the men in custody.
We've told you before about Metro Atlanta Police Department's struggle to stay fully staffed. Some departments are offering raises, while others are trying to recruit outside of Georgia to fill positions. But the city of Marietta has found another solution. Their department is actively recruiting millennials. It's not hung up on things like tattoos or facial hair. They're finding ways to highlight the family aspect of the job. The police chief tells us there is a waiting list on part of the department, which currently has 142 sworn officers.
Picture right here is the shooter in the Ford Explorer. Here's the driver of the Camaro and also the secondary shooter suspect. He's standing in line to purchase the juice. That time to go outside and get into a physical confrontation. This is where he says it. Now both of them are going to come outside. This is the black Camaro right here, and then the Ford Explorer's parked just out of camera view. We'll zoom out. Get into a shoving match back and forth. Now, there's already a driver in the Explorer, the gentleman in the red and black shirt. time. There's some people that exit the Camaro.
Two people get out of the car.
A female and a male. The female, she never goes anywhere other than that. The male actually gets out. This time, this man retreats back to the Camaro, pulls out a rifle. You can see it in his hand, his right hand. And the gunfire is exchanged right there. It's quick. That's coming out of the Explorer. We find two impacts on the actual Quick Trip into the rig right here under the Quick Trip sign. But right next to this car, right about here, there's two small children in the back seat of a car. This gunfire is being exchanged right here. There's a car at the pump, and it's this lady's children. You see, this is right after the gunshots. We'll go back to audio here. He sees the clerk when they go outside. He goes ahead and calls 911.
People who are getting into big arguments or going up here, please. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
They have guns.
Excuse me? Hey, they're shooting guns right now, so I need someone over here, like, right now. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
After the shots are fired, the gentleman in the tank top, this gentleman right here, puts the gun away and then comes in the store to finish paying for his juice and apologizes to the clerk for getting to a gunfight in his parking lot.
Oh, no, it was just happening right now. Yeah, I don't know what he got going on. He's shooting a gun and everything. Tell him out there. No, it was, deal with. It was, submachine gun. Yeah, I don't know what he did there. Deal with. I got lights in mine. Sorry, what was that, ma'am? No, it was actual guns, like, in the parking lot. The guy came in and another individual got in trouble, so.
Can I get it back? Because I do have kids in the car.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. What you got going on? I'm sorry? Like 5 seconds ago. Like right when I was waiting to be transferred to you guys. I watched him just fire, man. Yeah, he's good. Tell him got it, bro. I don't know what he started. How much? You can say how much. Ma'am, it was, you can how much? 2 or 3. It was, like a Uzi, like a, I don't know, it was a hang, it's all gonna be fire. Alright, 1 second. I don't need to know how much you do. Oh, I gave you 5 over the chain. I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what you got going on. Thank you, bro. You alright? Sure, man. Yeah, I'm good.
He set the phone down. He's so nervous. He saw this about how to get change. He set the phone down. The 911 operator now is trying to get information, and he's completely forgot that he was on the phone with 911. He's just, you can imagine, he just saw the gunfight in his parking lot. The guy comes in. He's trying to tell 911 the information, but he's kind of hesitant what he's going to tell him because he doesn't know if this guy's going to be like, don't tell him that, and start shooting at him. So he got kind of put in a bad predicament. Here's the gentleman in the black shirt, which will be the subject that shot the weapon out of the Explorer. There's a facial picture of him. There's the driver of the Explorer. Again, another picture of the driver of the Explorer. There's the driver of the Camaro and also the one with the rifle. There's the passenger of the Camaro who was present, and right now he's only a witness. And then, of course, the driver of the Camaro that was armed with a rifle. There's the front of the Explorer. There you can see his hand coming out, getting ready to fire. Camaro is a 2010 to 2013 model Camaro, judging by the tail lights. 2014 they changed the tail lights.
Paulo Searle has been on the scene all night long to get you some of those answers. So, Paulo, how did all of this get started?
Well, Ron, Marietta police tell us 2 of their officers responded here to a call of what they said was a suspicious person around 6:30 tonight. Shortly after, guests at this Motel 6 tell me they heard multiple gunshots. I'll step out of the way so that you see where this all unfolded. It actually happened just behind this building. You can kind of see those blue flashing lights. They've asked us to step away, and that's why we are where we're standing. But everything unfolded on the parking lot of this Motel 6.
But when I ran, I saw the lady crouch and let off the last 3 shots, pop, pop, pop.
Gabriel Wilson started recording moments following gunshots at the Motel 6 he stayed at on and off for over 3 years. He says he knows the man who was inside this red car when shots were fired around 6:30 tonight. Police say that man was taken to the hospital with serious injuries.
He was young. I seen him a lot over here. He come over here to, I don't know if the young lady's his sister or his girlfriend, but he come and pick her up. I don't know if he take her to work or whatever, but it's the same routine all the time.
It all started as what police say was a suspicious person call. Marietta police would not say who fired the gun or what happened, but guests here say they saw the man in the car get shot in the head.
The gentleman was trying to get in his car. He simply said, "I don't want to talk." Bum, 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 bum. 5 shots. Caught him in the back of the head.
He was on the ground. I guess he got hit in the head.
Marietta police adds that one responding officer had minor injuries. Crime scene investigators, along with Marietta Fire, responded.
I was inside the motel room, and next thing you know, we hear like 7 gunshots. Check outside, police all around.
And back out here live, still a very active scene. You just can't see much from our vantage point. But guests do tell me that no matter what happened between the man and police, it should have been handled differently. And now the GBI has been asked to step in and investigate, and we're waiting to hear another update from them tonight.
Only on 11 Alive, begging for justice after a teen was shot and killed during a May graduation party at an Airbnb. Right now, Marietta police need tips, leads to give this grieving family some closure. 11 Alive's Don White spoke exclusively with the victim's family and joins us now live in Cobb County. Don?
Jennifer, Grayson Green had a plan for his life. His family tells me he was starting his own music production company, but 2 weeks ago, those plans came to a tragic end outside of that apartment complex. This booklet here is from his funeral last week.
Very energetic, always smiling.
Grayson Green's father, Tashamba, says the 17-year-old high school junior was also popular.
Literally ran into 10 different people that knew him or knew of him, and he just, "Hey man, what's going on? How you doing?"
That's when his sister took him.
Grayson's infectious spirit was silenced on May 21st.
From his older sibling had dropped him off, and probably a couple of minutes later, he said he heard gunshots and he couldn't get a hold of his brother.
Marietta police say a large group of young people gathered for a graduation party at an Airbnb outside city limits, and when the homeowner told them to leave, they relocated here to the Walton Village apartment complex in Marietta. Police say there were multiple gunshots. One of them struck Grayson in the chest. This body camera footage shows officers arriving to a chaotic scene.
Hurt and sadness and just disbelief.
And the surveillance video shows dozens of teenagers running from the shooting.
Like, why isn't anybody speaking up?
Almost 2 weeks later, there are no arrests, leading police and Grayson's family to plead for someone to come forward.
Several people were around while this incident occurred. We're asking you to help us spread that information. We know that someone out there saw this and witnessed it. We need them to be courageous enough to come forward and help us solve this case.
Somebody saw something. A lot of somebody saw something. And we have to get this type of person off the street. So please, we're begging just for some closure in this.
We have more information on our website, 11alive.com, on
Good. Keep going with it. Yeah, yeah, 1, 2, 3. Very good. Hold on in the back. Alright, ready to settle back up. Just for pass on surveys. Hey, can you get a good heavy unit target close to the green van? It gets out pretty well. It's the other 28 on it. The green light with the other 28 on. Which one would be this way? Southbound towards the city, towards Fairgrounds. Hey, did you lose sight of it? Yeah, I wasn't gonna go wrong with it. Alright, radio, he's heading towards the fairground right now. I got it. At the bus barn in front of Lucky. That's fine. You want? Send the radio, he's trying to ram other vehicles. Alright, 41 radio. 41. 2024. We're gonna be west of Fairground. West of Fairground.
Case number 22596, case 22596. What's your final stop? We've got a couple units with them, please. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray. Tracing your case for 3936, 3936. 29! 10-4, what's your location? Clear Dusty Franklin, they're trying to find you. I'm like, he's in the car. 10-3. That's what that's for. Test 2 and test 3 for 10-8. Second. Drag him out. You drag him out.
Time's running out. Time to find a personal injury claim with Van Zant and David Van Zant. Time is running out. Why, Joe? Because Georgia gives you a limited time to file a personal injury claim. Even something as obvious as a car accident has several different parts to it. You're physically injured. Was your car damaged? But there may be more layers. For example, you may have lost a job in business and now you can't find a job. All good reasons to have David Van Zant and the Van Zant Law Firm on your side. Make the right call. Van Zant Law, 855 GA Injury, 855 GA Injury. When you call, personally ask David Van Zant, tell him I told you to call and put you right through, because having the right lawyer can make a huge difference in the outcome of your personal injury claim, which makes choosing the right lawyer an important decision. And that's why I recommend David Van Zant and the Van Zant Law Firm. Make the right call. Van Zant Law, 855 GA Injury or VanZantLaw.com. Burlington. Get everyone Easter ready for Dress at your Burlington store. Dresses for ladies and girls. Sports coats and polos for the guys. All your favorite brands at amazing savings. Hurry in. Easter's best is going fast. Envy Bath Body Bar, McCready Tavern, and local retailers. Welcome to 3rd Annual St. Patty's Day Parade Celebration. Saturday, March 17th from 2 to 9 p.m. There'll be live music, food, games, and more. Come and enjoy the Bottom Down for the City of Lawrenceville St. Patty's Day. Saturday, March 17th on the historic Lawrenceville Square. For more information, visit 6415.com or facebook.com/cityoflawrenceville. Searching for a new home can be an expensive process. To search for months on your own, then bring your force to hire a realtor just to unlock a few doors and write the offer. You end up doing all the work, but they get the big commission. Well, you're Citizens United, introducing Simple Showing. Simple Showing rewards you for finding the home on your own by paying you after standard commission at closing. It's the smartest way to buy a home. Visit Simple Showing recommends getting average regularly $5,000. That's simpleshowing.com. Cindy Water self-excited purple.
Earlier this morning, we responded to an accident. The accident appeared to be severe with injuries. We had passing motorists saying that the vehicle that you see behind me had gone in and struck the side of the bridge. When our officers responded, they were presented with an individual with a bow and arrow who pointed that bow and arrow at them. At least one of our officers did pull out their handgun and did fire towards that suspect. The suspect was struck at least one time. He has since been transported in custody to the hospital. He was conscious, alert, and breathing. At this point, it's too early for me to know if those were life-threatening injuries or not. We've received a lot of questions about, was this related to an incident that took place earlier this morning in Ansley Park? We have been able to confirm the vehicle is the same. Please understand that we're in the industry of people hold us accountable for everything that we say. All indications are that the driver of that vehicle carrying the same type weapon may be the same one that was involved in Ansley Park, but it's too early for me to confirm that. We have asked the GBI to come in as there were now multiple agencies on scene when this took place. It was our officer that did fire their weapon, and the individual was hit and struck at least one time. The GBI will be taking over the investigation, and we'll have to turn to them for any future updates.
Okay, do we know anything about this gentleman's background at this point?
To be honest with you, sir, I don't even know his name at this point. He was transported. Obviously, our first concern was to make sure that those injuries were now being treated. So at that point, that became the primary concern.
Okay. No injuries to the officers?
No injuries to the officers. And like I said, the GBI is already en route, and they will be taking over the investigation at our request.
Conscious, alive, and breathing when he was transported?
The individual that was driving the vehicle was out of it when we approached. He did present a weapon, a bow and arrow, did point that at one of our officers. That individual was struck at least one time by one of our officers. He was conscious, alert, and breathing when we were able to take him into custody. He was put into a metro ambulance and transported to a local hospital.
Okay. Did he threaten to kill himself at any point?
I don't know.
Was there ever any attempt by him to flee?
I hesitate answering because the truth is I don't know. Realize we have a very fluid scene, and that's part of what the GBI will be investigating, is taking statements from all the witnesses as well as officers. What I can tell you is that he presented a weapon towards our officer. Our officer did fire his weapon at least one time and did strike him at least one time.
Very early on into this investigation, I understand, but everyone wants to know, is this possibly the gentleman that's accused of killing an officer in Florida and fled away from there, and is it possibly him?
Honestly, at this point, I don't know those answers because our concern was to get him into an ambulance and get him treated for those injuries. We'll be able to get more information from the GBI later today, but at this point, I don't know that answer.
Great. Okay. Anything else you can add at this point?
I don't have any other information at this point, so I apologize, but I don't know any more information.
Can you give us time parameters in which the call came in regarding this?
Sergeant Blake, what time was that call? 7:10? It was 7:10 this morning that we received notification that a vehicle had struck the bridge. That same vehicle can now be seen behind me.
Okay.
Was it over rather quickly?
The incident itself took roughly 20 minutes before we were able to get him into custody. We were negotiating with him actively outside of the vehicle.
At any time was he barricaded?
There was nowhere to barricade. He was in the brush next to the vehicle. Yes.
Unfortunately, pretty common in the metro, but police say a man used this, a bow and arrow, in his alleged crime spree. Just after 6 this morning on West Peachtree Street, a woman told police a man shot an arrow into her windshield, demanding she get out. She got out. He sped off. The police say that was his second carjacking attempt of the morning. Good evening, I'm Sean Gables.
And I'm Alan Devlin in for Rick Fallbaum. The suspect has been identified as 29-year-old Trent Emory, and he's now in the hospital after being shot by police. CBS 46's Ashley Thompson is live in Cobb County with more on why these officers opened fire. Good evening, Ashley.
Good evening. That whole bizarre series of events ended right here. Police say Emory took that stolen car and drove it right here to Marietta. And take a look. This is where he crashed, driving right up here on the sidewalk, slamming into this column. You can see the markings that are still here on this bridge. But it's what he did when he got out of the car that forced police to shoot him. It was hard to miss the blue lights near South Marietta Parkway and Atlanta Street this morning.
There was a couple of police officers going past us. They was in the middle of the road stopping people.
Moments before, officers had opened fire on 29-year-old Andrew Trent Emory. Police say he was behind the wheel of this Toyota Camry when he crashed into this bridge. The front of the car smashed in, windows shattered. Marietta police responding to the crash say when they arrived on scene, Emory was holding something usually reserved for hunting.
When our officers responded, they were presented with an individual with a bow and arrow who pointed that bow and arrow at them. At least one of our officers did pull out their handgun and did fire towards that suspect.
The bizarre series of events ended with Emory shot in Marietta, but investigators say it all started in Atlanta.
Well, it was a little far out and crazy. How did they get all the way from Atlanta to Marietta?
Police say around 6:15 this morning, Emory used a bow and arrow to carjack a woman in Midtown. They tell us he fired the bow into her windshield, demanding she get out. When she did, officers say he took off in her 2014 Toyota Camry. An hour later, this. People who live and work nearby in shock.
It was very, very stupid of him to pull the bow and arrow.
Police say after refusing to comply with commands and put down his weapon, officers shot Emory once. He was taken to the hospital where he's expected to be okay. For hours, part of the road was blocked off as police secured the scene. The GBI now taking over the investigation. And we want to give you one more look at where that car crashed. Just really some incredible damage here. Now, Emory tried to carjack two others before successfully stealing that Toyota Camry. We are learning more about those victims. We'll have more coming up tonight at 9 and 11 on CBS 46. For now, I am live in Marietta. Ashley Thompson, CBS 46 News.
Caught on camera, Marietta police saving a woman from potentially falling to her own death. Come here, come here, come here! Come here!
Come on.
Police say the woman was suffering a mental crisis and was daring to jump from the 5th floor of the Motel 6 on Delk Road.
And that's where we find CBS 46's Zach Summers, live after speaking exclusively with officers who are really being praised for their swift action, Zach.
Yeah, you know, Marietta police tell me they respond to suicide calls quite frequently. Sometimes it's just too late. In this particular incident, it could have ended just as tragically had it not been for those officers and a good Samaritan who intervened.
Lean back, it's okay.
September 13th.
Lean back.
Officers Amelia Hines and Matthew Abkemeyer are responding to a call about a woman attempting to jump from the 5th floor of the Motel 6 on Delk Road.
Talk to me.
Kind of on each flight, I was still trying to talk to her to get her to maybe lean back in and just kind of stall, basically. Continued making my way up.
The Marietta police officers didn't have much time to think. They had to act fast.
I just went into life-saving mode and tried to do everything I could to help keep her from falling.
As a good Samaritan distracted the woman, Hines signaled to Abkemeyer that she was moving in and for him to follow her lead.
Come here, come here, come here! Come here!
When she went hands-on, I grabbed the pant legs of the lady.
Come on. The woman, suffering a mental crisis, put up a fight, but a third officer held her legs until Hines, Abkemeyer, and that good Samaritan pulled her back over the railing. The officers leaning on their crisis intervention training to prevent a needless tragedy.
And I always let people know that they're not the only one going through something. We're all going through something, especially right now with COVID, with unemployment, all of those things. Everyone's struggling.
Well, that woman was taken to a hospital for medical evaluation and treatment. September happens to be National Suicide Prevention Month. We have that hotline number there on the bottom of your screen. We'll also include other resources in this story at CBS46.com. Live in Marietta, Zach Summers, CBS 46 News.
Zach, thank you. 29 years of serving the community. That deserves a thank you. Marietta police say Officer Paula Goss has been a cornerstone of their department.
10-4, I'll show you 10:35 for your final time. From all of us at Dispatch, thank you for your 29 years of service. Thank everybody for everything.
Her friends gathered at work and they got pictures together to reminisce on all the years, all the calls, all the good memories. Officer Goss worked as a canine handler, partnered with a canine officer named Ava. She also spent a decade in the detective division investigating crimes against children, so she's tough. She dealt with some of the worst criminals police encounter. But her colleagues say she's also compassionate. She was a support to many people on their worst days. 29 years. Congratulations, Officer Goss, on your retirement.
Wow, congratulations. What a great career.
I could be doing anything else, but I'm able to serve in a place that I grew up in.
You have the opportunity to make a change in someone's life.
That's one of the best things and the most rewarding about the job of a police officer. Taking narcotics off the streets, I feel like I'm helping someone. The genuine responsibility that we have to assist people.
It's a humbling experience.
83, 42, 7. This job develops you as a person. It makes you use problem-solving skills that you never thought you could use before.
Just holding true to those values that I was brought up in.
Our purpose is to take a crisis scenario and try to resolve it as peacefully as possible. There is a lot of adrenaline in this job. Whenever we're called, it's usually for something serious.
At one moment you can be just walking along, and the next moment you can be go to a shooting.
You're running into woods, you're running around buildings with the dog trying to find the subject, but you don't know if they're there or not, and you can't see them. Your heart starts beating fast, your blood starts pumping. It gets the adrenaline going. The more prepared and the better your planning is, the better you are to contain that adrenaline.
The purpose of doing right is what I hold true every day.
I feel like I have some purpose when I do my job.
It gives me great fulfillment. Just be able to help a person and see them grow.
I couldn't be happier with the decisions that have gotten me where I am today.
This is new tonight. A 17-year-old wanted in a deadly shooting, and police say he is considered armed and dangerous. Marietta police identifying Donald Bannister, also known as Lil Ghost, as the person suspected of shooting a 30-year-old man along Massachusetts Avenue on June 15th. So just about 2 weeks ago, that man later died at the hospital. Police say one of the alleged accomplices to the shooting is in custody. The other is not being identified right now. Police say Bannister is a known gang member. If you see him or know where he is, call 911 right away.
Right now in Marietta, police are asking for your help identifying a man who was hit and killed on I-75. They say the man was walking northbound by the travel lanes when he was hit. You can see it was obviously dark at the time. He died at the scene. Detectives say it happened Saturday morning around 3:30 near South Marietta Parkway. Investigators describe the victim as a thin Hispanic man. He's believed to be in his early 20s or 30s. If you have any information that could help, please call police.
Tonight, the Marietta Police Department's Paw Patrol was forced to spring into action. 6 adorable puppies made a bit of a prison break. The police department said today that they got out of a fenced area and made their way onto Cobb Parkway or the Big Chicken before their humans realized what had happened. Fortunately, they were able to wrangle those cuties to safety. The police department did take the opportunity to remind folks to always make sure your fence is escape resistant and your pets have collars with ID tag.
And that breaking news out of Marietta, where a woman's body has been found at a hotel. Cobb County homicide investigators are on the scene at the In-Town Suites extended stay. This is on Barrett Creek Parkway, as you can see from high above here. They have been there for a few hours now. Our newsroom just getting word around 3:30 this afternoon, so just about an hour and a half ago. As soon as we learn more details, we'll update you on air and online.